Okay, this is our family needs interviews. Interview number one. This is the Thompson family. There's so much I can say about the Thompson family. So many great things. But we're just going to go ahead and get right into the interview. If you could just introduce yourselves, name, and I guess maybe age is not needed, but just name and of course your role in your family, and we'll take it from there. We'll start off with.
I'm Todd Thompson. I'm the dad, and my lovely wife.
Jeannie, and I'm the mom. Mia. Say it louder.
Mia.
She's Mia.
Look at the camera.
Tell them how old you are.
8.
I'm Rebecca, and I'm, I guess, the sister. Savannah, I'm 15.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the interview, this is an interview regarding family needs. The first question that I want to ask you is this one. What are your top 3 concerns that have a direct impact on your family? I'm going to repeat that question. What are your top 3 concerns that have a direct impact on your family? And now this may seem like it's a question for just mom and dad, but this obviously is a question that could affect you girls as well as the children. What things have the potential to affect our family, impact our family. Some examples possibly media, the culture outside of our family system. Things that are going on in the world, different worldviews, things of that nature. And so the question again is, what are your top 3 concerns that have a direct impact on your family?
First thing that comes to my mind is creating a stable and timeless family dynamic, meaning you brought up media and the things, the more pressing current needs or current influences. I think that if you look at the family dynamic, there has been a consistent model that's put forth for us biblically, but also when you look at societally, there are some pretty consistent models too. So creating a stable, consistent, safe family environment in which to grow and in which to operate. And that would work both from a secular and a spiritual basis.
Okay.
So that's one.
Okay.
Was that your first one?
That's a hard question. There's a lot of things. You didn't say the top 3 needs. You meant top 3 concerns.
Concerns that have a direct impact on your family.
Mm-hmm. I guess maybe one of the things is like you said, kind of pulling from that, is the concern that there aren't many strong family units that we're surrounded by and our kids are interact with in their schools and with their friends. That's why it's so important to set that model. There's so many things that vie for our time and our attention. And I guess it all comes back to what he said, is that those things that vie for the time and the attention, it's our concern to create the consistency at home in discipline, in meeting the physical needs and in meeting the emotional needs, the consistency of that fills those that erases those concerns. What is that? What am I trying to say?
Offsets.
Yeah. That keeps drawing them back home.
Mm.
That, like he said, the security of home, that consistency that will make them want to be home, and the things that vie for our time, vie for the children's time and by for our times, creating priorities that will, teaching them how to keep the correct priorities, to make the things that are spiritual the most important concerns in their lives individually as well as ours as a family.
Mhm.
I don't know I don't think that's top 3.
That's 2.
That's
That's
2.
2. What about y'all? What do you think?
Creating close relationships with one another
Yeah.
Okay.
as the siblings.
Okay. That's a great one. Being able to create close, deep relationships with each other while you're at home, Which, by the way, let me add too that the Thompson family has a college student right now, right, at Harding University, Cooper Thompson, and so he's not. He just started at Harding, but last month I guess now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we would have to be trying to fit him in here if he was here right now somewhere, but
He'd
But
probably
he's-
have a different answer.
and
Well, and one thing on the sibling thing, I'm sure he would echo what Rebecca said, and then what I'm sure Susanna agrees with too. And something that attracted me originally to Jeannie was when I met her sister, there was a bond, there was a closeness and a genuine affection that she and her sister shared, and still share. She and her sister are still very, very close. And I remember as a college student thinking, that's the kind of relationship, or that's a person who is capable of having a very strong and well-based relationship. And that's the kind of tenet or the kind of characteristic that was attractive to me, considering her as a mate.
And
Which
I
has
saw
worked
that
out.
in him and his sister too.
That's worked out pretty well.
great,
That's been okay.
great. Okay, so do you wanna add anything,
I
Suzanne?
was gonna say friends, just the outside company of whatever's out there every day, and the contrast home would be to that.
The difference between the friends that you see out in the world and then what you come home and the relationships you have at home, the contrast in that. Okay, great. All right, we're going to move on to another question. The family is a nucleus of interrelated relationships, as we've talked about. How would you rate the health of your relationships in your family? How would you rate the health of your relationships in your family? 1, being poor. 5, being extremely great, healthy relationships. How would you rate those and possibly why?
Girls, do y'all want to start? We started
You
on
mean
this end.
among them or between all of us?
Among the nucleus of the family, among the whole family system. The family is a triangle, and it's different triangles of relationships, and so how do all those function and the health of those, and how do you guys see them?
What do y'all think?
I'd say 4.
Okay.
Did you say poor?
4.
I say poor. 4. Yes.
Because I've always felt that our top priority is being a close-knit family, and but at the same time there are problems in communication, and there are periods where things are, I don't know, hard to get through with each other, but the effort is what I think makes it great.
Okay.
What would you say, Becca? Can you repeat the question?
Okay. How would you rate the health of your relationships in your family? 1 being poor, not healthy relationships, to a 5 being real healthy relationships.
Probably close to like what Susanna said. I think that, no family is absolutely perfect, but I think this is probably as good as I mean, it's much better than most people have.
Mhm.
But,
Can't get any worse.
Everything's a competition.
but like being able to like being around people that don't have that relationship with their family and just realizing how blessed you are to be able to come home and like laugh with your sisters or whatever.
Yeah. Very good.
What do
Very
you think,
good.
Mia?
Two.
Two?
I'm just kidding.
What would
He
you
said if
think?
it was two.
Oh, maybe. But what do you think, seriously? What number would you say seriously? Between 1 and 5? 3, right in the middle?
Great.
Because you get beat up a lot?
She's the youngest. She's the youngest one, so I mean, a 3 is pretty good. 3 is great. Yeah.
I'm disappointed in 3. I would say 5. I'm just very optimistic, I guess. But because you said health of the relationship.
Mhm.
You didn't
Yeah,
say it's
that's
always
true.
perfect.
No.
So
No.
I think we have very healthy relationships. I think it's the healthiest because if it weren't healthy, you'd deny that there were downs. And
Mhm.
there are downs. There's times when we yell at each other. There's times when we make each other cry. But we always make it. We always care about the result and always do our best to make it better. And we always communicate through. Like you said, there are problems in communication sometimes. But when there are frustrations with communications, stuff, we don't let that lie, you know.
Mhm.
That's not something that we allow to go on. What would you say?
I was going to echo that nothing's perfect, but I feel like given the scale upon which we can judge or rate or compare, that 4, 4.5, you know, there's everyone, including Cooper that's not here, who's not here, everybody has a unique personality.
Mhm.
And you interact differently with each different personality a different way.
Mhm.
And I think that's just normal.
That's right. That's right. Great. 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 We're going to move on to the next question. What would you say are your family's greatest needs right now? What would you say are your family's greatest needs right now?
Cooper.
So
She
sweet.
misses her
We
brother.
need him, yeah.
So sweet.
We don't want we're so blessed in America that we don't want for anything physically. So that's something you can take off the table very quickly.
Yes.
Everyone can complain that we don't have this, we don't have that, but we're so blessed from the material perspective. I don't know. I don't think of us as needy or missing anything.
Yeah, I was, not to say that we don't already have this, but something that I constantly like hunger for when I'm away from home is consistency. And I know that home being where I come back to every night, that's something I can rely on. So a solid foundation, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
Not always that's good.
What do you think, Becky? Can you think of one of our family needs?
Maybe like something we don't already have, or
What do you think?
Well, I think, and I definitely agree with Mr. Todd. It's not really necessarily, I think, a question of physical needs. I think as a family unit, I think it's more along the lines of, you know, what possible emotional needs or spiritual needs or relational needs, and not in the sense of, man, we're lacking these things and we're really depleted of these things, but I think every family has needs. Every family, to some degree or another, needs to grow more in one area or another. And so, as you know, look inside of your family and think about it for just a second or so, what can you look at and say, yeah, you know, we do well at this, but we still need a consistent, inflow of this for our family to be able to function in a healthy way and for us to keep growing as the Lord expects us to, as mom and dad expects us to, and so forth. Does that make sense?
Sure, that makes me think of, well, he's always thinking, and the time is the problem, more hospitality in our home, more commonality with other families,
Mhm.
with kids that that they can relate to, that are
Mhm.
being raised like them.
Mhm.
And that's in short supply.
Yeah.
The time to seek out those relationships,
Mhm.
to spend time with those common families, that would probably be, that might be number one.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that is something that I grew up with, a lot more hospitality interaction, but a lot less busyness
Yes.
than we have now. And we're not overly scheduled. I mean, you hear about
Oh, yeah.
crazy, overly scheduled kids.
Yeah, we consciously don't do
We
that.
You
made a conscious
Eat
choice.
dinner in a van from one practice to another.
Yeah,
and,
You know, occasionally
Sometimes.
stuff like that happens, but it's not all the
Every-
way from
yeah.
ballet to football to soccer to swimming. You know,
Yeah.
we're not
Yeah.
doing that kind of stuff purposefully. But just I think that families that are nuclear, there is a desire to cocoon, to really,
Yeah.
and you do that almost on a selfish, I know I
Mhm.
find myself on a selfish basis doing that.
Mhm.
So the effort, it would take a special effort to be more, not, what's the word I'm looking for, not more hospitable, but just to have more times when Carlos and Gina come over to the house.
Yeah, with the kids,
With the
and
kids.
we have dinner or
We
something.
have supper Sunday night.
Where that becomes, that's the normal, not the exception.
And I think you guys have hit a nerve, I think, in the family system of the United States of America, in the sense of busyness. I think you've hit a nerve there. I think that's what hinders us the most from getting to a relational connection with other families that could help us grow ourselves as a family.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Well, and I think in a lot of situations, the intergenerational interaction is lacking too. That we have close relationships with our parents, and I mean, they have exposure to older people in the family.
Mhm.
But that would be another need I think we probably have is, he used to be deacon of the widows,
Mhm.
and the time we got to spend with them, oh, that was wonderful.
It was great.
The kids
Yeah.
loved it, and they loved the kids. That was wonderful, and that's one thing I truly enjoy about our congregation,
Mhm.
is that we don't separate for worship into the ones who are the older ones who are more comfortable with these songs, or the new, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That everybody's all together,
Yeah.
and we agree to disagree if we disagree.
Yeah.
So that need is met in our congregational setting, but I think that's another need that I would feel I need to pass on to my children, that maybe I'm not taking the time to do too.
Gotcha.
So I don't know.
No, it's great. Great stuff. It all makes sense. You guys are doing wonderful. We talked a little bit about, we've mentioned church. We've mentioned the role that church plays. We've mentioned how it's helped. And that kind of segues real good into the next question I've got here, is how can our church family partner with you to help you and your family grow closer relationships with each other?
With each other?
Yes, how can our church family, holistically speaking, partner with you, your nuclear family, to help you build closer relationships within your family? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, sure. I would say it's not the church's responsibility.
Okay.
But the first thing that comes to my mind is to feed them scripture.
Mhm.
And that's
Mhm.
obviously my first responsibility. It's not the
Mhm.
church's responsibility first. But I would say to socially and in a congregational way, and within the youth group, feed them truth.
Mhm.
And because that develops strong individuals,
Mhm.
and strong individuals make better families.
Mhm.
That's my
That-
first response.
That's a really interesting question, because what that does is that you being a full-time minister, are really pulled in two very distinctly different directions. And where I'm headed with that is, you have a situation, again, we're not perfect, but you have a situation where you have a functioning family
Yes.
here, and the
Yes.
dynamic is alive and working.
It's a traditional functioning family.
Exactly.
Yes.
Versus what we also have in our congregation, where you have a fractured, exploded
Postmodern.
situation where you have, totally absent parents with
Mhm.
kids that are bringing themselves
Mhm.
here, or grandparent, child, and stuff like that. Our needs and the interaction that we hunger for from a congregational
Mhm.
perspective
It's
are
very
vastly different
Oh, yes.
than what little Sally and Grandma Moses have as the two of them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A very, very different. They need perhaps more activities
Mhm.
to bring them together with
Mhm.
people, whereas we need less.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'm
no,
not-
not necessarily less, but
No, possibly
we
less.
can't do everything
Yeah.
because the family is the top priority to us.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's hard. I know that's hard for you.
Well,
to be honest with you.
maybe not thinking in the realm of necessarily events or activities,
Mhm.
but in the sense of a resource.
Oh.
How can the church, in that degree, help the nuclear family, a family like the Thompson family, grow closer in their relationships? Obviously, the angle, of course, the focus, the catalyst behind it is the spiritual part of the family growth. How can the church help out in that? The church has been involved, whether we know it or not, or accept it or not. The church has been involved in the formation and development of families since Old Testament times.
Sure.
It's been part of it. It's been woven, and the thread is there, and it's still there. And so we need to say, okay, as a church, how can we help families at whatever level they may be at continue to grow in a healthy way, scripturally, and to grow adults that are faithful, and parents that are faithful to the Lord and faithful to each other, and all that good stuff. And
Well,
that's
Just like with Cooper,
Mhm.
before he left, and still, he hungers to come back to this family, to come back to this church family.
Mhm.
He misses everybody that comes away from this family misses it tremendously, because replacing that need that's been filled by our church family is very hard for
Mhm.
anyone to do, because we have a very unique family here. I think the main part for him was his connection with the youth group. He misses that incredibly.
and they miss him.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, that is a need, an individual need that he had. But just like I was saying, that to give them the truth
Mhm.
as much as possible, give them a barometer, a public barometer
Mhm.
by which to measure their feelings, their relationships, a scriptural, biblical barometer, and don't make excuses for that. And not that I think there have been at all,
Sure,
but
sure.
just that, and then opportunities for them to learn to serve one another. That has been done. That's very good. And to grow them individually, to show them, to help them to meet each other's needs, so that makes them stronger individuals. They see what their faults are through one another. They create those strong, eternal relationships with their spiritual brothers and sisters, that they don't want to sever. They don't want to leave it. They don't want to graduate from.
So, do you all think there is and I'm kind of deviating a little bit from my questions here, but do you think there is some direct connection You've talked about several ingredients just now that the church has been or could be or should be, doing in the sense of scripture and relationships and things of that nature. Those are ingredients I see. And so those ingredients, you think they have a direct or possibly an indirect connection to the health of a family?
Sure, because it can be very unhealthy.
Okay.
I mean, it could draw away from the family if it were not done the right way.
Okay.
Not giving, putting pressure on them to be something that they're not. Like their normal peer groups at school, that they're not exactly, built up to, serve one another.
Mm-hmm.
But the types of situations that are offered here and have been offered here, just like we did with the Kingdom Living, we were in such transition getting Cooper to school that we hardly got to partake in that, which Rebecca mostly verbalized. We didn't even get to do that. Those types of things more often.
Gotcha.
To serve as a family more often
Gotcha.
would be
Gotcha.
wonderful.
Gotcha.
Because when Susanna sees me serve, that
Yeah.
inspires her to serve.
Gotcha.
And when I see Mia kneel down to help someone, that inspires me
Gotcha.
to kneel down to help someone,
Gotcha.
to work as a family unit like that. But I'm interested in what y'all would say about that.
Do you guys need me to kind of refresh you on the question
Yeah.
again? or-
Yeah.
Okay, all right. It had to deal with the church and being able to, kind of partner with families, specifically with your family, to kind of help you grow. As you grow, help you grow closer together in your relationships. Can the church do that? Or should it do that?
Or is the family
how does it do
exclusive
that?
of that?
I think what Mom said about like serving together, and because we'll do stuff in youth group where it's the youth group kids doing it together, and that forms relationships in the youth group and within the kids. But to have like individual families like go and serve together, all of them, I think that would be really good.
Yeah, I agree too. I agree.
Can you think of anything, Susanna?
Just the church serving as an example for what a family is, that the Bible says that the church is the body, and I think that is a great example for what a biological family should be, in that we all work together for the same purpose.
That's good. That was great. That was great, guys. I'm going to have to possibly even cut out some of these questions here. I'm looking at my time up there. I'm going on 27 minutes. Okay. Okay, we kind of talked about that a little bit. All right. What are your family's spiritual goals? What are your family's spiritual goals, and how does your family plan to get there?
Wow. I don't know that we've ever set, per se, spiritual
Goals. But if you can think of some right now, I know as parents, we have this idea of where our kids, we would like to see our kids.
Yeah, we don't, there's no chart on our refrigerator.
Exactly.
Spiritual goals.
Exactly. By next week, you will bench press the Old Testament books of the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
But the understanding is, and what we set out to create is, I think, the best of both of the families that we came from, as far as the Christian environment, the nurturing, supportive environment. We are firm believers in the benefit of Christian education from the college perspective, because that's where we met, and that's where Cooper is, and that's where your professor is viewing this at this point. at Christian college. So our goal has been to, whether stated or unstated, has been to create a stable, loving, supportive environment to allow our kids' unique aspects to flourish, and to encourage them on the correct path, the faith-based path, and to encourage them to seek higher education. Not that that's the be-all and end-all, but that gives them opportunities to continue to excel in the secular world, and also to shed their Christian influence in the settings that they may find themselves in down the road. So as far as spiritual goal, how does that relate back to a spiritual goal? Raising well-balanced, normal, Christian, God-fearing kids.
I'd say one goal that we maybe not have always had, but have in the last several years have had, is to create scriptural familiarity. And they, to keep them in the Word, to encourage them to hunger for the Word themselves, not just as a family, but to always use as our benchmark the Word. And whenever there's a struggle that Susanna has at school, or that Cooper has at school, or that we have at home, that that we don't just react emotionally, or we don't just react. We do that, but then we always try to come back to the Bible says this,
What's God
and
say about this?
this is how we're going to deal with this situation. Not what the youth group's doing, not what so and so said, or not what, well, let's see what this other family thinks about it, or what the preacher said. No, but always coming back to the Word, and dealing with things based on, and praying together, and praying about the future, and praying toward the future through things that are happening now and things that may be to come. But always praying, always directing each other to that, to come back to that stronghold and that benchmark, instead of just, going off what the world is doing. Never, we've striven very consciously to not make what the world is doing our goal or our comparison. What do y'all think?
Do you guys remember the question?
I always rant
Spiritual
on
goals.
Yeah, spiritual goals
in the family.
in the family.
To get to heaven.
So, number one, there you go.
That's a goal you can definitely trace. Be like, okay, I'll put that one down.
I don't really.
Okay. I didn't know if you...
No, go ahead.
To be noticeably different than everyone else, I guess. To be the light of the world.
Okay.
And be a family that people around you know that you know what your purpose is, and that you are not easily swayed by what the world says.
That's great.
Excellent.
That's great. Okay. If there were say 3 things you can think about that our church family, or well, let me rephrase that our church's youth ministry could do to help the family in the sense of parenting. Again, I'm looking more for, and this is somewhat similar to question 3 or 4, whichever that was, but again, this is more of seeing it as resourceful helps other than activities help. This is more of families being able to partner with their church's youth ministry or family ministry to be able to get those resources. And again, each family, as we stated earlier, is going to be different. Some families may need a ton of resources, others may not. But what would you say maybe are possibly some of those things that our church is either doing or can do, our church's youth ministry is doing or can do better to help in the realm of parenting?
I think it's been good to see the way that you have pulled in older people into the youth ministry, whether direct or indirect roles. I think of some of the older people that have served as youth leaders, and not just parental youth leaders, but people that don't have any kids in the youth group at the current time. And I think that's been good. I think the kids hopefully recognize that as unique, that there's a degree of wisdom and life experience that comes from those people that aren't parents of theirs, but still interacting with them. I think that's been a good resource to name it as such.
I think their specific needs, and Cooper's was, and probably still is one thing that's partially being met is your small groups that you have once a month. So many times that gets overridden by some special thing that's going on, but they get so much out of that. Having that older person have sit in a small group setting where they're many times pouring their heart out, or even more, hearing others pour their heart out. Because so many times when you're in that youth group situation, in the large group, everybody's got to put on that youth group front, that everything's great, and I'm Miss Personality, or I'm Mr. Great, and there's a lack of realness in that. And in the small groups, from what I understand, there's a very, very tangible realness to it. If there were more opportunities for that, maybe, and I dare say in homes instead of in the youth room, I mean, could that be possible? Wouldn't that be wonderful to have some mom, or maybe not mom, maybe that would be even better, or some dad or older man or something in his home. Just have a few of the guys over and talk about what's going on, what are they dealing with, something maybe that they wouldn't want to, bother their mom and dad with, or reveal to their sister or brother. That I think would be great for those who do have strong families, and for those who don't. And one way would be that those who have strong families and do talk to their mother or father could help those who don't. And that gives them an opportunity to discuss that, where they're not putting up a front for everything being, hunky-dory all the time. That is being met to some extent, but there's so little time in that 30 minutes to even with a small group get around to everybody answering the question, or let alone more than one question.
Or just praying, it's not enough time.
Yes. So I don't know. I mean, that's something we should look at. Every Thursday night at 6 at our house, small group, whatever age.
I don't think every Thursday is realistic. But
No, it's not. But
one night a month, do something like that.
But if you had
Off
different
campus.
families doing that at different times, if that were something that were ongoing, that we could have families sign up for or whatever, or have individuals sign up for whatever, and then have the kids sign up to be in whatever group they want to be in, or whatever, however you want to do that. I don't know what's the best way. I'm not even a youth minister, but that's a definite need to give that age of kids an opportunity to be together, where they're not afraid to be real and be fed spiritually and emotionally in a small group setting. That would be extremely unique. Now, you have fellowships and all that, but there's,
Sure.
that's fun, but it doesn't meet the emotional needs.
It's a different dynamic. It's a different purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that wraps it up for us. I want to thank you guys. Thank all of you for just your openness and wanting to spend almost 40 minutes doing this interview. But again, I appreciate you guys very much. Thank you. And
Thank
we'll
you.